By the end of March 2017, the European Union celebrated its 60th founding anniversary, 1957-2017. Over the past 60 years, the EU has been proud of the great achievements that the Union has made. Standing out from the ashes of war, Europe has now become a united institution with shared values. The EU is currently the leading trading partner, investor, and the largest non-refundable aid donor in the world. However, Europe is currently facing many unprecedented challenges, both in the region and internationally. What is the future of Europe, including the prospect of the Union after Britain left the Union? Where is Vietnam in the EU's new development strategy? This issue will be discussed in Sharing Vietnam today. Greetings from Sharing Vietnam on VTC10 NetViet. 2017 is seen as a challenging year for the European Union. So what is the role and position of Vietnam in the new development strategy of the community? In today's program, we have a conversation with His Excellency Mr. Ambassador Bruno from the delegation of the European Union. So thank you for joining us. The first question we'd like to ask you is, could you please brief on the relations between Vietnam and the EU since the foundation of the European Union 60 years ago?
The first element is that the member states of the European Union have always been great friends of Vietnam. Many of us have developed diplomatic relations only after the Paris agreements in '73. So there's been a very solid foundation of friendship between the member states as such. So we have started development cooperation since approximately 1978, and we have focused on development aid in the field of humanitarian relief, rebuilding the infrastructure. We focus very much on agriculture, education, and today still we are very much focused on very important areas for Vietnam's development: health. We are also working in the field of developing the energy sector reform. So the EU institutions, the European Union, but also the 28 member states have been extremely present, had a lot of sympathy for the people of Vietnam. And we've been altogether 28 plus the institutions, the biggest donors to Vietnam, and very happy. We're very proud today. I think the way Vietnam develops and the way Vietnam is very proactively trying to build a new partnership with Europe. Amongst the member states of ASEAN, we see Vietnam as a very dynamic, a very proactive partner.
It is said there are outstanding changes in the relations between Vietnam and the EU, especially in recent years. So, do you think so?
Everything we did together was really for the best of both sides. What we have tried to do now is to move away from humanitarian aid to development cooperation, and now from development cooperation to a much broader partnership. Not only in the field of trade and economy, but we're also trying to focus much more on people-to-people contact, promoting studying in Europe, developing research and development, innovation, bringing much more people as tourists, because Vietnam is exporting wealth now. There's a lot of Vietnamese people traveling. We see that between 300,000 and 400,000 people of Vietnam visit Europe every year. That are really great things. So we have a much broader partnership. Since last year, we also have a comprehensive cooperation and partnership agreement that came into force. The EU is now a new comprehensive partner of Vietnam, and we are working very much on developing an action plan and be very focused in certain areas, and typically areas will be education, sustainable development. Vietnam has moved up very much and is a very able and interesting partner for us.
In 2017 and especially in the coming years, what are the new challenges that the European Union may face? Can you share more with us about that?
Of course, if you look at the European Union now and you compare it with 20 years ago, the EU has totally changed. Today, 20 years ago, a citizen, me, my parents, we were not aware of the benefits of the European Union in our daily lives. But if you think carefully, since we have developed the Schengen area and since we have the possibility to travel all over Europe without a passport or a visa, and since 2002, since we have euro notes and coins in our wallet, we use euro money. I think that what we have experienced over the last 10 to 15 years with the financial crisis, with the migration crisis, with terrorism, is the feeling that we moved on very much. We developed a lot of things in Europe, but at the same time we did not ensure proper protection from crisis coming from outside. The financial crisis was first a banking crisis in the United States. The migration crisis is basically due to instability in the Middle East and around the Mediterranean Sea. Terrorism is basically the same. So in other words, we feel that we didn't do sufficiently ensure security of our people and external protection. So today the major challenges are to convince the citizens that apart from all the benefits they got, the cost that they have, the concerns, the fears that they have, is something that the EU leadership will have to address. So our leaders try very much to improve the situation and make sure that we can move on and further move on with European integration, but at the same time make sure that the people are feeling secure, safe, and that the economy goes better in the future. These are really the priorities for the coming years. So big challenges, but I think the leaders also are looking now for solutions, and little by little the feeling is that the people are convinced that the EU remains key for the future.
Over the past years, EU-Vietnam trade relations have developed rapidly and efficiently. Between 2000 and 2016, Vietnam-EU trade turnover has increased more than 11 times, from $4.1 billion in 2000 to $45.1 billion in 2016. According to the Vietnam Import-Export Report 2016, Vietnam's largest export markets in the EU are still the traditional markets of Germany, the Netherlands, the United Kingdom, France, Italy, Spain, Austria, and Belgium. Trade relations between Vietnam and its partners countries are believed to continue their current momentum despite the challenges that the EU faces.
The only changes I foresee are good ones, meaning that, as you rightly pointed out, this is a very complicated moment for EU, but history taught us that from crisis we rose even stronger. And I think that the Rome Declaration we signed, 27 countries signed last Saturday in Rome, gives the best evidence of the continuous commitment of the European member states to go ahead along a path that will grant us security, prosperity, and a better life for our citizens. So, having said that, and against this backdrop, I think that Italian-Vietnamese relations and Italian-Vietnamese economic and trade relations will thrive.
And the position of Ireland is that we're very committed to deepening our cooperation with Vietnam. We have, through both the European Union and bilaterally, very strong relationship between Ireland and Vietnam. We're looking forward to deepening that cooperation. We have a new strategy, which is a comprehensive strategy coming out this year, which looks at the bilateral relations, both political and development, and also the trade and the people-to-people links.
The EU-Vietnam Free Trade Agreement (EVFTA) is a new generation trade agreement between Vietnam and the members of the EU. The two sides have completed the negotiation process and will agree to endeavor to finalize the ratification at an early time for the agreement to take effect in early 2018, in order to take advantage of the benefits the agreement will bring.
No change. We will stick to our commitments. We really want the EU FTA to be signed, to be applied. We increase the investments in Vietnam, slowly but steadily. We continue our cooperation until 2019, and we continue further the academic cooperation and all our relations.
Vietnam is the most important partner of the EU in Southeast Asia and a major exporter to the EU. Therefore, EVFTA will bring about great benefits and can accelerate the economic development of Vietnam. In contrast, the EU also benefits from the trade cooperation with Vietnam. This agreement is very important to both EU and Vietnam. However, the Britain exiting from the EU, which is an important partner of Vietnam in the Union, is a matter of great concern. In the face of new challenging and also the difficulties that the European Union may face, what is the role and also the position of Vietnam in the new development strategy of the community?
If you mean development strategy in the field of development cooperation, then clearly our feeling is that we have to focus much more our aid on fragile countries, countries that suffer most from the negative impacts of globalization, and it includes in particular many countries in Africa. We have an important development strategy with Vietnam, and it will remain so. We will not change it. We are basically focusing our efforts today in the health sector, reform of justice, reform of the energy sector. We will keep focused very much on these priorities of our development aid. But if you mean in a wider strategy, where does Vietnam stand in comparison to our international policy? I would say Vietnam has a very important place in our international strategy. First, the European Union now is exporting much more to Asia than ever before. We export almost 40% of what we export is going to Asia, and we are a very, very big market for the Asian countries themselves. ASEAN for us is very important, but the most open and proactive partner within ASEAN is Vietnam. So for us, building a partnership with Asia, with ASEAN in particular, means a lot. And in particular, having a good, positive partnership with Vietnam is very important. The free trade agreement that we have concluded with Vietnam, if we can ratify it later on this year or early 2018 and implement it, will really be a model, will be the perfect example of how we can be complementary and help Vietnam society to be more competitive and lift its economy at a higher level. So Vietnam has a very important place in our strategies towards Asia, and I'm sure in the future it will be much more the case.
Could you please specify more on the impacts that the Brexit could have on the EVFTA?
We have concluded the free trade agreement. The negotiations on the free trade agreement, they have been concluded on the 2nd of December 2015. Basically, Brexit has no impact on this. The British leaders and European leaders have always said that everything that has been concluded so far will remain on track and Brexit will have no impact. With our British friends, we will start indeed negotiations on the Brexit, but they normally should be concluded at the earliest by 2019. But our prediction is that by that time the free trade agreement is already entering into force and it will have no impact whatsoever.
2017 is seen as the challenging year for the European Union. So what is your expectation for the vision of the relation between Vietnam and the EU in this year?
Well, I think the strategic priority now between Vietnam and the European Union is to make sure that our comprehensive partnership works properly. The one I mentioned earlier, that we have concrete action programs, that we can start work together on new areas of cooperation. And the second key priority is to make sure that the free trade agreement gets signed and gets ratified. These is really the two major building blocks of our partnership. If we can get these done, I think that the future for our partnership really looks brilliant. What I would suggest and what we discuss with the leadership is exchange of bilateral visits to make sure that the process is on track and negotiate the remaining details on the comprehensive partnership and make sure that we have the means to implement that. So the year 2017 for us is an important year because we have to fix a few of our problems, but in our partnership I would say comprehensive partnership, free trade agreement, get it on track, get very much focused. Here in Hanoi and in Brussels, make sure that you prepare well to implement these agreements.
Once again, thank you, Mr. Ambassador, for joining us and for your meaningful sharings today. We hope that the relations between Vietnam and the EU will be strengthened in the future.
My pleasure.
And that's all we have for this episode of Shang Vietnam today. For comment and feedback, don't hesitate to write to us at shangvietnam@netvietv.net. Thank you for watching and goodbye for now.